Good afternoon, Nigel.
Good afternoon. So, tell me, what is the view from the University of Tehran of Donald Trump's behaviour a couple of days ago?
Well, I don't know about the University of Tehran, but at a personal capacity, I think it's quite outrageous. He committed a war crime against high-ranking Iranian officials, as well as high-ranking Iraqi officials. And the strike was carried out without the consent of the Iraqi government. In fact, just a couple of days before, the U.S. carried out a strike against Iraqi soldiers in the front lines against ISIS, and the Prime Minister of Iraq told the Americans not to do it. The U.S. Secretary of State ignored him as if this was some sort of part of the U.S. empire. And then when the Iraqi Prime Minister asked for him to give evidence that this group from the military force that's fighting ISIS, that they carried out an attack on an American base, he refused to give that intelligence. Why? Obviously because they didn't have such intelligence. So when the American government attacks Iraq and Iraqis and Iranians inside Iraq without the consent of the government, in violation of international law, how do you think Iran should react? Now, Iranians are outraged.
You talk about, and the very large numbers of people are in the streets today. I saw the pictures of the coffin going through the streets and huge crowds there. And so there's no doubt that there are people in Iran, of course, who do support this regime and who are outraged by this attack. But, you know, you talked about Donald Trump and war crimes. I mean, how many Iranian civilians who were part of the uprising against this regime were put down and killed by the Iranian regime last week?
Well, Nigel, by using the term regime, and repeatedly, you don't legitimize the act of your friend in the White House.
Forget that. No, I tell you what. Forget Donald Trump. Forget Donald Trump.
Listen.
I'm doing my best.
Putting down people. You use the word "putting down" as if they're dogs and that people are treated like dogs. That's the language of propaganda.
All right, killed.
In Iran.
Killed. All right, let's just use killed, shall we? How many were killed last week?
I don't know the numbers, but what I do know that in that 2011. And when you had riots in the UK, I think it was 2011. It was
in London, particularly.
5 people were killed, and when foreign media, Persian language media channels based in the UK are encouraging people to riot in Iran, and when MEK terrorist organization, the MEK terrorist organization that fought alongside Saddam Hussein, and which is now based in Europe as well as in Albania, when they carry out armed attacks inside Iran during those days, people are going to get killed. So
I'm sorry, Professor. I'm sorry. I mean, the 2011 summer riots that took place in London and some other cities, in which a few people did get killed. That's true. A handful basically got killed, and it wasn't very pretty. But there's no comparison between that and 1,500 people reportedly being killed in the last couple of weeks in Iran for standing up against this theocracy. There's no comparison between the
two. Come on, Nigel. First of all, your numbers are just made up. Second of all, you're right. You can't compare them. Because in the case of the UK, no foreign power is egging on riots. No foreign power is funding groups to carry out attacks. But in the case of Iran, your government facilitates anti-Iranian propaganda. It facilitates TV channels in Persian to encourage rioting. And your government allows terrorists, the MEK terrorists who fought for Saddam Hussein, for them to carry out attacks inside Iran. So you're right, there is no comparison.
Do you genuinely believe?
Since you look at the world from a position of privilege and exceptionalism, you think that if your country interferes in my country's affairs, it's fine. But if God forbid, my country interfered in your country's affairs, the world would
Well,
come
I think
to an
Iran
end.
has been interfering in the affairs of other countries all around the region, and indeed we've had confrontations between Iranian ships and British ships. So this is not this has not exactly been a happy relationship for a very, very long time. Can I ask you,
Nigel,
do you genuinely
Iranian
believe?
ship that was taken?
Do you
Wait,
genuinely
first It was
believe?
an Iranian ship that was taken by the British government. Second of all,
because of
Iran and the region fought
sanctions
ISIS.
breaking. Because of sanctions breaking.
No, your government obeys the United States. What sanctions? Those are U.S. sanctions, not international sanctions.
Actually, Professor, I'm sorry, you're wrong.
The white man sanctions.
I'm sorry, you're wrong. These were EU sanctions. Let me ask you a question. You're there. You're there. No, they were EU sanctions. They were EU sanctions.
We could talk about that ship in detail. I know the exact details of what happened. We know that the acting Spanish foreign minister at that time, he said that the Americans ordered this to happen.
Can I ask you a question?
Go look it up.
Can I ask you a question? Do you, as a professor, at the University of Tehran, do you have full academic independence? Are you free to say pretty much whatever you think?
Yeah, I have colleagues in Iran at the University of Tehran who are very much opposed to the Islamic Republic of Iran. And they have Twitter accounts. You've never been to Iran, Nigel.
No, I haven't.
You listen to your friends, and you have this distorted view of the world, and you think that that Iran is this mysterious and dangerous place. No, it's a normal country with normal people. But your government, and especially the United States, is abnormal.
Well, before 1979...
it's normal. Your government is behaving abnormally.
Professor, before 79, Iran was a great country. Iran was a great country.
Iran is a great country. Your government has helped the United States and Saudi Arabia and others together to create the extremism that we see in Syria. Trump himself, your friend Trump, he admitted that the United States helped create ISIS.
Professor, where I will agree with you, I tell you what, where I will agree with you is that many of the interventions that have happened in the latter part of the last and the earlier part of this century, spearheaded by the British and the Americans, were mistakes. On that point of agreement,
these are not mistakes; these are war crimes.
On that one point of agreement, I will say thank you very much for joining us here on LBC. And when I've debated Iran before, we've had telephone calls coming into the show from Tehran, from people telling us what an absolutely marvellous country it is to live in. I don't believe a word of it. I think it's a bad regime. I think it was a great country. I think it could be a great country again. I hope indeed one day before too long it is. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC.